I don't know whether you've heard, but I'm offering some spaces in my calendar for Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery calls. So this call is for you if you're ready to get pregnant naturally or improve your chances at the fertility clinic. We take a functional approach to fertility. It's the future of conventional medicine. There is a reason that so many medical professionals work with us. The approach is rooted in science. The call is for both you and your partner, and all you do is go to FabFertile, FABFERTILE.com and click on book a free call. Then you'll be booked in and ready to spend 30 of the most valuable minutes on your fertility ever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think infertility especially, I mean, you could just sit there and bitch about all the bad things that went wrong. And if you're made to think, okay, you have to write one thing that made you smile today, you're like, oh, what did make me smile? Did I smile today? Surely I smiled today, you know?
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission is to inspire, motivate, and empower you. And most of all, I want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse the condition. Today, I'm welcoming back Monica Cox to the podcast, and we're digging into positive mindset and journaling during the fertility journey. Monica is somewhat of a hippie and a bit obsessed with real food. Her clean eating lifestyle evolved slowly during her 9-year infertility journey. She spent 6 years searching for an answer to her unexplained infertility, which included never seeing a BFP and 2 failed IVFs. She decided to make some dramatic diet and lifestyle changes to improve her fertility health and requested an immune test, even though doctors told her she wasn't a candidate for such testing. The results came back and she discovered she had high natural killer cells. The answer to her unexplained infertility. 5 embryos on ice. She did 3 FETs with immune suppressing drugs, which resulted in 2 miscarriages and 1 beautiful baby boy. 2 months after all medical treatment was done and dusted, she found out the dramatic diet and lifestyle changes had paid off, and she was pregnant naturally for the first time ever. Baby boy number 2 entered the family in March 2018. Monica is a stay-at-home mom, wife, a fertility health coach, author of Baby and Me, and creator of the Great Veg Brekkie. She's all about inspiring others to improve their physical and mental health on Instagram at Positive Fertility. So that's positive_fertility. And check out her website at mymindfulme.com. And before we jump into today's show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this to make sure you never miss an episode. And be sure to check out Monica's journey on episode 29 of the podcast. Hey, Monica, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, excited to chat to you about this topic. So definitely check out episode 29. We talk all about the autoimmune protocol diet, and Monica shares more of her journey there. But if you could kind of give us an update and I guess share us a little bit about your journey as to where you are now.
Yeah, so I had about a 9-year infertility journey. I would say about half of it, I naively walked down the path of what the doctors told me and topped it off with a lot of Google. We did a round of IVF, which was a bit of a shambles. We were kind of left thinking we couldn't even make healthy embryos. So we embarked on a diet change and a mindset change and went and did another round of IVF. And that was much better, but I still didn't get pregnant. And we did some autoimmune testing, found out I had high natural killer cells, and then used immune suppressing drugs during our frozen embryo transfers, which we had 3 of them, and 2 ended in a miscarriage and 1 ended in our first son. During that time, I went on the autoimmune paleo diet to help with my immune disorder. And 2 months after my second miscarriage, I was pregnant naturally for the first time in 8 years.
Amazing.
So to say the least, it was a wild ride.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you had your second one, was it last March?
Yes. So our second boy came into the world screaming, last March. So,
Wow.
It's been surreal to say the least. I think to deal with infertility for so long, and obviously for a lot of years we were unexplained. It was a very interesting mindset to get pregnant naturally. Obviously, you have all those fears because the only time I ever was pregnant was on a load of drugs and being monitored. So it was a very new territory to navigate. And also the mindset of, even though the diet and the lifestyle changes were hard to, keep up and do, and have no reassurance that they were going to pay off. You just kind of had to blindly do it. I was kind of mad at the world for a few months that, it wasn't the norm. It wasn't the first thing that people suggested to do. There was a lot of money, time, emotions, heartache that I dealt with before, kind of seeing the light.
Yeah, and going for that many years, and then changing your diet for your second one and getting pregnant so quickly. So it's and I don't know, that's why you want to share this journey and work that you do with others, to really let them know there is another way.
Yeah, definitely. Not that I found the golden ticket for me. What I did worked for me, and not everyone needs to go as extreme as I did, and some people need to go more extreme. My mission now is just to let people know that there is different options than just going straight down using drugs and invasive procedures. It's really getting down to the root cause of your infertility and finding, a diet and a lifestyle that work for you. So the mindfulness side of everything works hand in hand, with having to change your diet, because we're all very, emotionally tied to our food and our drink and our lifestyle. And when we have to give those things up, we have to retrain our brain to look at the world in a different light and look at yourself. For me, it was, if I have to give up alcohol, who's the party girl? Like, that was my identity. Everyone knew me as the fun-loving Monica who loved to go out and have a few drinks. And all of a sudden I had to change and be in bed, at a decent hour and not drink. And that was, difficult emotionally for me, because I felt like I was losing a part of myself.
Yeah. So that's keeping that positive mindset while we navigate the fertility journey. And yeah, with the giving up alcohol, a lot of people then feel, oh, I won't even bother going to some social events, so they can feel, and then add in the diet piece. If you're doing a restrictive, if you're doing an elimination diet, which can only be it's only for 30 days, so you can do anything for 30 days. But if you have to go to a more AIP diet, which then that can be challenging in itself.
Yes.
And then if you've got some other, to dig into that mindset piece to allow you to make these diet and lifestyle changes so you don't get off course. So how did that work for you, or what are some tools you can suggest to help there?
So for me, my first kind of big thing was I actually went and got a circle and bloom. So I didn't do any mindfulness stuff, really up until my second IVF. So I spent a year doing the diet and kind of just was a little bit, I had to do it. That was just my goal. But I wasn't really focusing on anything mindful per se. And I was just listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, right, I need something to just make me stop for 30 minutes a day. So you use it kind of right before whatever treatment is starting up. And it's just like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And for me, it was really out of the box, because it's very visual, and, you're talking about focus on your ovaries and your eggs floating through and see the light. It was just like, oh, this is a little bit hippie-ish, but I loved it. It really just calmed me down, and it made me think of the bigger picture. And so after that, I kind of saw the value in, being more mindful about everything. And my first kind of big revolution was around my first frozen embryo transfer. I decided to take up journaling. And I actually use a version of the 5-minute journal. So there's a journal out there called the 5-minute journal. And it just really asks you basic questions. What are you grateful for? What kind of person do you want to be today? And it's basically 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and
actually an app for that too, 5-minute journal app.
Yes, and now there's an app for it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And this really set me up because I got pregnant for the first time ever with my first frozen embryo transfer. But at the 7-week scan, there was no heartbeat. And at the time, it's only on reflection, obviously. At the time, I didn't really think how powerful that journaling was. Because even though obviously we were heartbroken over it, I just had this overwhelming feeling of hope and gratefulness in my journey because I got pregnant. I did it. I stepped forward from, years of never getting pregnant. And that mindset that I had created made me fight even harder and thought, okay, what more can I personally do to improve my situation? So even though we had more eggs on ice and we were still going to be using medical help, it gave me that strength and that mindset to go, okay, right, I've been paleo for 2 years probably at that point. What more can I do? And then that's how I got, I researched it more and got into the autoimmune paleo. So I think it's just, finding something that you can connect with. So if it is an app or a physical journal or meditation, guided, and just doing it consistently every single day and building that practice. And I think meditation and those kind of mindfulness things are hard because it's not like losing weight where you can step on the scale and go, I've lost 5 pounds, all my hard work has paid off. It's really not until a point of adversity where something has gone wrong again and you deal with it in a way that you probably would have never dealt with it. You probably would have been more mad or angry or sad or give up. And all of a sudden you're like, oh no, okay, I can do this. You look back and go, that stuff actually works.
Yeah, you're building resiliency and you're coping, being able to move to thriving instead of just, getting through the day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really important in fertility, in dealing with the infertility, because I say I have failed more than I have succeeded in my fertility journey. Obviously, where I have succeeded is huge. I've got the ultimate goal of a baby, and then for me to get pregnant naturally as well is huge. But there's, a lot of people just either don't realize or don't know that I've, failed and failed and failed and failed. And there was many times I could have turned around and given up saying, oh, the paleo diet didn't work or the journaling didn't work. It's all about, just setting into your practices and keep going, because you have 12 chances, if you're trying naturally a year to succeed, and which is nothing, when you're living it day to day. And then if you do an IVF, you get built up to this huge, huge expectation. And if it does fail, you're just left, really destroyed. So it's just really putting in a good mindfulness practice that is going to get you through those hard times to continue on going. And whichever journey, if you decide to do egg or sperm adoption or adoption, physical adoption, it's not like, oh, this journey is going to make you pregnant, because that's just not the case. It just gives you the tools to just keep going.
So you use Circle and Bloom, and then the journaling was really beneficial for you, and then meditation as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It all just kind of came into play. You just slowly build on something. There's no way I would have succeeded if I just went into a even 15-minute sit down meditation. I would have failed because my brain wasn't ready for that. And to be honest, sometimes my brain's still not ready for that. It's a constant battle because your brain is always trying to look at the dark side. And I think that's kind of how a lot of us maybe grew up, and it's so embedded in us to be cup is half empty.
Yeah, that negativity bias. We can there and visual. I was just talking to someone on another podcast, Molly Nichols, and talking about how we can really visualize that negative outcome. We have got the negative outcome just visualized to the nth degree, but to visualize the positive outcome, we haven't spent a lot of time doing that. And really, with Circle and Bloom, which is visualization, and then adding in the journaling. And so layering these pieces, meditation, for me, that was one. I was doing the diet, doing all the different lifestyle stuff. Meditation came in for me later. And I started at 5 minutes. I'm like, I cannot even sit there for 5 minutes. This is crazy. And then gradually, probably over like 6 months to a year, built up to 20 minutes to half an hour. And now I'm like, 20 minutes is like, boom, done. I'm like, we're done already? In the beginning, it was like, 20 minutes? Are you kidding me? I can't sit for that long. I go bananas. Like really focusing on your breath. And when I don't do it, and because it's not about perfection, and there's times where I'll fall off the wagon, I guess, and because it's usually when I'm extra stressed is when the meditation will go, and then that's when I need it the most. And I can totally see and I'm typically a positive person, but I'll just be prone to a little more like irritability or just crankiness or maybe more anger, and it's like, oh, get back to the practice, get back to it. And you just come back anytime.
Yeah. And I think in infertility, we kind of, I think we guard ourselves. We want to like protect ourselves. And that's why we don't allow ourselves to think positively, like the IVF's going to work, or I'm going to get pregnant this month. I think we set ourselves up. So when it doesn't happen, we tend to think that we'll be better off because we set ourselves up for that failure. So it's not that big of a deal, if that makes sense, where I feel like, it's just repressed emotions, isn't it? You're going to feel sad, no matter how you looked at the future. If you looked positively about it and then it failed, you're still going to be sad. Whether you look negatively at it, you're still going to be sad. So it's kind of, retraining our brain that it's okay to think positively. That's not going to make us any more sadder, if that's a word, more sad about the situation if it doesn't work out. And like I said before, you don't see the benefits. They're very further down the line until you are in those situations that you will feel the benefits of having a more positive and grateful outlook of life right now. And like you said, it's not about not being unhappy and not dealing with your emotions, and that, if you have a meditation practice that you're not going to get upset and stressed and stuff. That's not, what anyone's promoting. It's just setting yourself up to, like I said before, handling those situations with a little bit more grace, I suppose.
Yeah, and maybe not as much the roller coaster thing where we're like, we're up because everything's working, and then we crash down, and then when we crash down, we stay down there for weeks, months, years, and whereas this is more, let's be a little more even keeled, where we kind of you can have a little blip, but you're not hanging out there forever. So it's just being able to navigate it a little more, evenly. Yeah. So as far as reframing our experience, how does that help us and set us up for success?
So for me, putting in this mindfulness practice, it not only allowed me to handle the hard situations, but it helped me to keep up with the changes I needed to make to have successful pregnancies. Because like we say, the diet is hard. So if you have decided to change anything, it's very hard in this society, especially if you're not surrounded by people who get it. I remember my mom thinking I had gone absolutely nuts. And now she's on her own journey of diet and nutrition, and she's finally got it. But, it's just having that confidence in yourself of going, you know what, I'm making these changes for me and my future and my family and what I want. Having just that confidence of when you say no to a drink, or you say no to bread, and you get those funny looks, and you're just like, you know what? No, it doesn't matter what you think. This is for me. So I thought the mindset really helps with that as well. Because if, anyone who's gone through any kind of change, or they know, and it's really funny because I've gotten more weird looks and kind of like, you're doing what over diet and nutrition and lifestyle than I did when I was doing IVF. That's the norm. It's okay to do IVF. No one looks at you funny. But when you're like, no, for me, I had to like cut out nightshade. So I don't eat tomatoes and paprika and potatoes, which are for most people healthy foods, but for me, they're not. And people are like, what? You don't eat that? And it's just like, so yeah, I think, setting yourself up and being confident in what you need to do is really key, because it's very, very easy to just give in. You just want to please people, don't you? And even pleasing people instead of pleasing yourself and helping yourself get to your dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely check out episode 25. We talk about the elimination diet and why we always start our couples coaching program. We start them with the elimination diet. And then if we need to go further, we do dig into the AIP diet where you take out nightshades and a whole bunch more things. We go into detail actually on Monica's episode in episode 29. And I also had Dr. Sarah Ballantyne on the show, episode 46, and that talks all about she's the person behind the blog Paleo Mom, and so she switched to the AIP diet. And she had Hashimoto's, and so that's a really cool.
She's epic. Like, that's where I got everything. I mean, her resources. I mean, she has so many free resources out there, and if you have the mindset that, like, she was actually, her blog post about alcohol is what made me trigger and stop drinking even that one glass of wine, because I had got off the wine. That wasn't a big deal, but I was still having here and there, especially like leading up to IVF, one glass isn't going to make, and, her scientific research behind it. And it was like, okay, you're right. And, but I had to get there mentally of like, okay, no, that wine is affecting me. That wine is having, is hindering my chances of getting pregnant, with medical support or without. And I'm not saying that one glass of wine would have this huge effect and make or break my IVF cycle or make or break a natural pregnancy. Not at all. But for me, I had to get there mentally to just go, no, okay, I'm going to make a commitment 3 months before I start treatment. No alcohol. And that was huge for me. And maybe that's what, some people struggle with, the breads or the pastas or the sugar. There's so many, everyone has their vice. And until you get it mentally in your head that doesn't define you, you will be okay without it, then that's when you're able to really make the commitments and have huge impact on your, your health, your fertility journey. So it's all intertwined.
And there's a lot of that societal pressure of like, oh, wait, you're not having the bread? Oh, what are you doing there? Or why aren't you having a drink? Well, why do we go out and think we have to have a drink? There's a new book, Sober Curious. I've talked about this before on the podcast, the book, and it's about this movement. And it was actually, her book was featured in Time under their mindfulness category, talking about going out and actually going out in a mindful way and socializing instead of why do we all go out and want to drink? Mm-hmm. That's how we're socializing. Why can't we go out and have a good time and not have alcohol? Not to say you can never drink again, but I think it's just to look at how we just do things in a habitual way. And and especially around the food, there's a lot of pressure. People are like, well, why are you doing that? And that's why you got to come to this when you're ready, and you can't, and sort of creating that ripple effect of people around you. And if it feels right for you, then it feels right. And just know in the beginning it'll suck, but then it'll, because what is it? Robin Sharma says in the beginning, change is messy. Beginning, what is it? Oh, and I'm gonna get hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. So it's a journey, and that's why it's important to have support too. Because sometimes if you're not around like-minded people, who just get it and understand that looking at it through the lens of functional medicine, that this stuff makes sense. It's not, there's science and research behind it. It's, why is the norm to go off to the fertility clinic and kind of challenge that a little bit. And so have that not necessarily your first step.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's a lot of joking around about mindfulness. There's a quote out there that, my sister's cousin started mindfully journeying and bam, she was pregnant with twins. I think it's off of How to Buy a Baby. It's hilarious. And you do hear it, but, trying to get the message out there that that's not the point. Like, I created Baby and Me, a mindfulness journey or journal that, is all about just looking at positivity in your day. And then it has lots of space to track your fertility and, what medicines, if you are doing an IVF cycle or, but the whole point of it is it's not going to get you pregnant. That's not, it's not any of this meditation, yoga, acupuncture, any of those mindfulness practices are not, if you have a deep, really underlying roots cause of your infertility, these are just all support mechanisms to mentally help you get through your journey to however you become a mother, or if you decide not to become a mother. It's all just there as support tools. And, I always say, as much as I now believe in mindfulness and a mindfulness practice, I could have never, ever mindfully wished my overactive immune system away. I had to put in the hard work with the diet to fix me. So it goes hand in hand. I feel like Sean Croxton talks about it. He used to be a health coach and now he's all into mindset. He saw hundreds of clients and some would get healthy and some would not. And it was just like, well, he's giving them all the same opportunities. He knew the root causes. Here's your diet you need to be on, your lifestyle, your supplements, and some just wouldn't get healthy. And, his whole practice now is it's the mindset. Your mind is so much more powerful than, we can, I think for most of us, I feel like a simpleton in all of it, can believe. It's hard to wrap your mind over how powerful your mind is. So.
Yeah. And I guess if we get off track, which happens, life gets in the way. So what are some strategies to get us back on course?
It's just to have the courage to go back to what was working for you in the first place. Don't just say, I haven't journaled or meditated or done yoga practice for a month, so I'll just forget it. Because I think it's that. It's just go back to your practice. If that's what you were really enjoying, go back to it. Don't be afraid. And I feel like this is for diet as well. Like if you fall off the wagon with your diet, don't worry. It happens. We're human. That's life. Just go back and start it up again. And, maybe this time, so say if you just did it for 3 months and you fell off track, and maybe this time you'll do it for 4 months or 5 months. And I think if you just keep going back and giving it a go, eventually it will be your life.
Yeah. Which is strange, right? You're like, how did
plan
on, staying dairy and gluten-free, dairy-free, corn-free, mostly processed sugar-free. That wasn't really on my radar. But then you just start feeling so awesome. Like I think with the diet piece, when you start feeling awesome, you're like, you will slip up. I'm like, every time I'd have something that was not really in line, I'm like, I feel that. I just don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to feel like crap.
And it gets less and less. And I mean, I would say, what am I now, about 5 years into my journey, and I still will have a drink. I will still have gluten every once in a while. I'll have ice cream and stuff. But for the most part, you just look at some stuff and you go, not worth it.
Not worth it, no.
Just like, and then in your mind, your taste buds change. So lots of things change over a slow period of time. And I think in the beginning, you have all these memories, how that, warm loaf of bread made you feel. And it was so amazing and it tastes amazing. And like 5 years down the line, you still have those memories and you taste it and you're like, nope. It does not do that for me anymore. So you don't do it, So it's just about, if you feel that what you're doing has benefits, just keep going, just keep it up. Even if it's not 100%, a lot of people talk about 80-20 out there. And I think the more you do 80-20, or 85-15, the closer you get to be, which I think I'm about 97.3% now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you just find out what works for you, and it just keep going. Just go back to what you were doing, and you'll find that you fall off track a lot less.
Are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, know that my heart goes out to you. I struggled with infertility just like you. So I want you to answer a question for me. Do you want to improve your chances of having a healthy baby? So if the answer is yes, then I'd love to help you. And I'd like to help you do it for free. So go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. So here's how it works. Right at this very second, you're probably stuck on one of these three things. So first of all, you're dealing with stress and constant worry. You're up late at night, scouring the internet for answers, leaving feeling even more worried and overwhelmed. Sometimes you find yourself worrying all day long, day after day, and the underlying fear is that you'll never be a mother. Number two, you're trying to eat healthy, stick to an exercise plan, take all the right supplements, get a great sleep, but life just keeps getting in the way. You have good intentions every week, but then you get busy and tired. And the last thing you want to do is focus on your health. You worry that you'll never stay on track. And number three, you're preparing for your next transfer. The IUI or IVF is coming up so fast. You can feel yourself overanalyzing everything. You know you shouldn't be stressed, but thinking about being less stressed just stresses you out even more. You don't know which diet, supplements, or exercise routine will optimize your chances. You're confused and worried that this is your last chance to be a mother. So which of those sounds most like you? The good news is that whichever it is, I can help you craft a plan to enhance your chances of conception for free. I'd love to spend some time with you, so here's what to do next. Just head on over to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and apply. It's a really short application that just tells me about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend the 30 most valuable minutes on your fertility ever. So go to FabFertile, FabFertile.com and click on book a free call. It's the consistency of just showing up, even with the, if you're doing yoga, you show up to the mat. If you're doing meditation, you just show up to your meditation spot. You put on the visualization thing, you put pen to paper and do the journal, and then it just becomes, because an average habit takes 66 days to form from University College London study. And some are less, some are more, but really, the habit of saying no to the breadbasket or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess a lot of this is having your why too. And in this case, the why is massive. It's massive.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that you'll find someone who does all of this for no reason. The guy who actually turned us on to the whole functional medicine, he's the only person I know that changed his diet and his lifestyle because he wanted to. Everyone else I've encountered has had major issues and have needed to make these changes to become healthy. And having your why is very powerful. And a lot of people that obviously I have a huge story to say, and they're struggling with their why. They're ill, but they're not that ill, if that makes sense. They still kind of get through the day. They're not hospitalized. They're not, struggling for a child or have cancer, but they're sick and they feel it. But they can't get the mindset around that they need to make these big life changes to be better. And I think the reason is they don't have their why. A doctor's not said, you're dying or you have cancer or you're infertile or any of those. So they really struggle. But, for us talking about infertility, I think whatever degree of how much you want to be a mother, that's your why. And then for me, my why kind of switched after I kind of, got out of Google land and really focused on the root cause. I started diving into epigenetics. And I was like, whoa, like my goal now is not getting pregnant, because I know I can do that. My goal now is switching on all the good genes for my children and switching off the bad ones that obviously we got.
Mm.
And especially because I have 2 sons, and my husband's line of men have had prostate cancer.
Mm.
So his grandfather, his father, his brother, I'm 100% sure he will be dealing with it at some certain degree. And our sons are genetically prone to that. So my goal was to help them. You know, I'm never going to, you know, no matter what you do, there's no guarantees, but you just have to fight for the best outcome. And so that was my new why. And I even had a friend once tell me, oh, you know, the goal is just to have a baby. It doesn't really matter if it's, you know, not the perfect health, right? I was like, no, like, obviously I have no control over it. But if I have, you know, if I can do anything to make sure my child is healthy, I'm going to do that. And I think we don't have the knowledge out there that what we're doing before pregnancy and especially during pregnancy has a massive effect on the health of our children.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not, and then also you in postpartum. So
yes,
if you haven't focused on these issues, how will you be able to take care of the baby if you have these underlying health issues and your body's there whispering. Right now it is yelling at you saying there's something going on, time to dig deeper. And if mindset is the gateway for you, that helps you then being able to lean more into the diet, look at some functional testing, looking at your sleep, your poop, all of your blood sugar, all of these things which matter. And then instead of running over there and putting a Band-Aid on the thing, you may get pregnant, you know, going through an IUI or an IVF, but then how is the health? How is your postpartum period? How is the health of your children?
Mm-hmm.
Both of my kids, because I went through donor eggs, both of them have food sensitivities. And you know, and keeping teenagers off of dairy and gluten and having them, we eat all organic foods here. It's all fine and dandy in the house. When they leave the house, it's difficult. And like one child, it really affects his mood when he eats foods that, well, specifically for him, gluten. And another child is, both dairy and gluten. So it is really to sort of fix these issues if you can beforehand and look at these and look at the different things you can.
Yeah, exactly. It's and like I say, I don't want to scare anyone. I don't want to say that you can control everything, but there's just such a bigger picture here. And as a society, we just don't look at it. You know, it's very much so, take some medication, do IVF, don't fix the root cause of it. You have polycystic ovaries. Well, you're always going to have that. Don't fix it. Well, you can manage polycystic ovaries, so anyways, for me, I was just say, my why just became so much greater and just made me focus so much more on making sure. So with my first son, I was on all these immune suppressing drugs. So I was on steroids. I was on the intralipid. So I already had the knowledge, like, okay, I need to be doing as much as possible in my diet to help contradict all these drugs that both me and my baby are on, because I was on the steroids for the first trimester. Yeah, it's important to look at those things as a whole.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then as we dig into journaling here, so how does journaling help? And I know, so there's Julia Cameron, which she is the author of The Artist's Way. She talks about doing this data dump or wisdom dump of 3 handwritten pages, and you wake up in the morning, you're just kind of like, you're just free flow writing, and you don't even need to keep it. So that's kind of a lot of times we have all these thoughts swirling around in our head, all these thoughts tied to emotions, and we don't even know that they're there. We get it out on paper and go, oh wait, and then we can also even have some insight into that. So and sometimes people are like, journaling, I don't want to journal, I don't even like it. So how does journaling help?
Yeah, I mean, the scientific knowledge around journaling is insane. And like I said, even with my journey, I didn't know how powerful it was going to be. I'm still not at a place with journaling where I mind dump. And I think that's just an excuse of, I don't have the time. We all have the time. I just haven't made the time. And that's probably why I created Baby and Me, to be a very quick end of the day thing. Because I think just like we were talking about with meditation, meditation, it's a big ask to get people to sit down and mind dump and really journal about their emotions and their feelings and things like that. So that's why like the 5-minute journal and things like that, and now Baby and Me are great as a tool to get you into journaling and taking those little steps of actually writing down at least one feeling, so the Baby Me is just a question, and it ranges from like, what did I do great today, to what do I need to spend less time with, and you just literally write it down, and that just helps you to see life in a different perspective. Because like you say, like we have thousands of thoughts a day, and we probably don't reflect on any of them. So,
negative thoughts are the ones that are going in the loop.
Yeah, exactly. So journaling, whether you do it physically with a pen and paper or on an app, just gives you that time to stop, to reflect. And I think it's really, there's amazing journals out there. And, even if you just pick one up or download an app, it just is another tool. It's another tool to get you on the right path for a great mindset, which will help you achieve what you need to achieve in your life.
Yeah. And as I was preparing for this interview, as I stumbled across that 5-minute journal, I'm like, oh, this thing is pretty darn cool. So I just actually did it yesterday and today, which is 3 things you're grateful for, and the affirmation you want during the day. And at the end of the day, what went well, and then your parting thought. But yeah, so anyways, it's just kind of a cool reflection, because I think a lot of times we're in this automatic pilot and we're not really processing or thinking, and probably we're focused more on the negative side of things. And there's a lot of positive things that have happened throughout our day that we can then start to, the more we look at that sort of thing, the more they'll show up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think infertility, especially, you could just sit there and bitch about all the bad things that went wrong. And if you're made to think, okay, you have to write one thing that made you smile today, you're like, oh, what did make me smile? Did I smile today? Surely I smiled today, So it is just retraining your brain, and it's simple, and it's basic, really. Like I don't feel like these things are reinventing the wheel. It's just doing them that you have to put in the time, you have to put in the practice. It's anything. It's a skill. It's a skill to be, more grateful and joyful. And I think especially in this day and age. So yeah, I feel the importance of journaling.
And so how do we get started? So you've got some prompts in your journal there, but how do
you get started? You literally buy a journal and a pen and you just do it, or you download the app. That is my best and only advice. And I feel like it depends on what kind of person you are. If you need a more in-depth journal, and you want to mind dump, you just buy a blank journal. So there's so many options out there now for us. Just go to your Barnes and Noble. I just sat there and just looked at all these different journals. I actually recently just bought my girlfriend, who's very religious, a religious one that she gets to do journaling every day and has like a scripture to it. And she's going through a hard time in her life, and she just said that journal is amazing. And she's not a reader or a writer. That's not her thing, but she's just finding that journal so useful. So there's no magic trick, there's no, I don't think anything special about it. You literally just have to make that commitment, put the money into it, or I'm sure there's loads of free downloads. The phone for me, I try as much as I can to get away from my phone. Mm-hmm. So I don't actually personally use any apps that make me sit on my phone any more than I need to. So yeah, for me, I just get back to the old school and have that physical pen and paper. I feel like I get more out of it as well. Yeah. And maybe that's just how I grew up. I'm old.
For years, I haven't journaled probably in about a year or so, but for me, and there's like different types of journaling. So there's one, and for me, I was always, what are my activities for the day? So I would always like, I did this and I did that and blah, blah, blah. And tomorrow I'm going to do this. So that's kind of one kind of journaling. Another one is like processing things that scare us, or like decisions that we want to make. And you can kind of journal about the decisions. So it's almost like this little part like self-therapy and self-coaching and stuff like that, to dig into these pieces. another thing is you can write in bullet points, and that's how I always wrote. Sometimes people write in like big paragraphs, but for me, it was always, I just probably how I am is more quick. I want to do the bullet points, talk about my activities, and maybe, and then if I look back and say, oh my goodness, you've been writing the same thing that you wanted to do for the past month. Like, I still haven't done it. And I'll go back and go, it was really important that I do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You still haven't done it. And I'm like, consider myself this person of action. So like to dig deeper on that. So that kind of thing is, so these realizations come out as you go back and read. And you can also see your state of mind as you look back like a couple months ago going, oh, wow, I was really in a dark spot, or maybe I was like trying to noodle through something, and it's sort of reflect.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a perfect record because, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a human trait of forgetfulness, because I just don't think that most of us would survive if we didn't forget the true, real, raw emotion that we feel. And especially I started Baby and Me as kind of a distraction before my last frozen embryo transfer. And it's still a free printable on my website, so you can go print it out and put it all together yourself. And to look back where I was, and, I had the miscarriage, and I had to write down, on the day I started miscarriaging, what I was grateful for. And just to watch that journey and then watch my feelings and emotions about being pregnant naturally and going through all that, because I got really angry at a stage that, the diet and the lifestyle was hard to do, but that's all I had to do to get pregnant. I didn't have to go through IVF. I didn't have to do all the medical treatment. So I was just angry. So it's a great way to reflect on both ends. Like you say, reflect that, oh, that bad habit or that thing I wanted to do that was so important, I still haven't done, or look how far I've come. So having a physical representation of your true emotions at that time is awesome.
Yeah, and I think looking how far we've come, because a lot of times we don't focus on all the things that have gone right, our wins and successes along the way, and all the changes you may have made on this journey. And to either reward yourself with some sort of something, or do something nice for yourself, because just to reflect on that piece. And I don't think many people even think of rewarding themselves. It's like, oh wait, I've done, I said I was going to do some meditation, and I did that. I committed for 30 days and I did it. And maybe you decide to do something nice for yourself. Maybe it's a bath, or it's, go get yourself a new favorite book, or just a little reward.
Yeah, I posted the other day on Instagram something about, if you don't know where to start with self-care, just go buy new underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Just start simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be these huge revelations. And I think maybe that's where we beat ourselves up, because we see other people, even like myself, saying, oh, I do this, I do that and that. But, remember, I started in a very low, dark place. I was dealing with like 3 to 4 years of unexplained infertility. I was, and even on top of that, I would say I was unhappy before my infertility. Really, you think you don't realize how much your past impacts on you. And then for me, my infertility journey brought out not only my health issues, but my mental issues of like, why do I have, like you said, go out and socialize and drink a bottle of wine and a few shots on top of that with my friends? Why can't I have a normal conversation? Like, what's going on there? So it's all about just starting simple and not beating yourself up if you're not perfect, because none of us are. Absolutely none of us are.
I saw something else about you can write in your non-dominant hand and then answer in your dominant hand.
Yeah.
My non-dominant hand, my dominant hand is atrocious. My non-dominant but I guess then it's the left and right brain, and to be able to, I didn't really look into see why that was, what's the science behind that, but that was kind of a strategy too that I was reading about. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. No, my perfectionist inside of me would probably, I don't know. Yeah. And that's a big thing with my writing that I had to get over with. And maybe that's why I don't mind dump, is that I'll go through a page and I'm like, oh, my style's changed. Oh, that doesn't look good. It's just like, no one's going to see this. What are you on about?
And so we talked in the beginning about some, if we don't like the paper journaling, there's some apps. So there's the 5-minute journal, which we talked about. Anything else you wanted to recommend for apps for journaling that you like?
No, like I said, I don't use apps on my phone.
Right, you said that, yeah.
Yeah, I just try to get away from it because I feel like, a lot of our lives are dominated on our phones. Just even communicating with our friends and family, you're on your phone getting the news. I have a timer on my Instagram. I'm only allowed to be on it for 1 hour a day. I don't have Facebook on my phone. So yeah, there's just a lot of things for me. I personally just try to get away. Especially with my sons, I feel very mindful. My 3-year-old already tells me and my husband to get off our phones and listen to him. So unfortunately I don't. For people who would like to use their phone for an app, I'm sure if you just go to the app store, there's probably some really amazing ones out there.
And which timer do you use for the IG then?
It's actually on Instagram, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how I did it. I think it kind of came up and said, do you want to put a timer on? I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome to train my brain because, I do a lot of work on there, obviously. And, I'm really engaged with my followers. So I respond to every message that I get. And so it just takes up a lot of time. But also I'm human and I start scrolling and I get distracted and all of a sudden, I haven't done what I came on to do. So it just helps me be more mindful of what I'm actually doing.
Yeah. And definitely check out your feed. What's your Instagram thing again?
So I'm +_fertility. Yeah. And it's all about diet and mindset on there. And I try to do it with a lot of lighthearted stuff. Some of it's deep. I feel like there's a time and a place for the really emotional, deep searching stuff. And then there's a time for the F-bomb.
I'm with you. So, and you do a lot of food posts on there too. Are you doing something around food right now? Like a cooking?
Yeah. So I try to post my breakfast because for me, that was the biggest hurdle to get over with diet. It's very cereal toast. I was. And so I just talked about the other day, cereal, there's gluten-free cereals, there's healthy cereals and all that out there. And I wasn't looking at cereal like, oh, this is devastating my health. I started looking at it going, this actually isn't improving my health. So to get my vegetables in, because those are, what's going to have the biggest impact on improving your health, or one of the biggest impacts, I started grading them. And so I do a lot of that. I just try to inspire people to kind of think outside of their box with their breakfast. I did a 2-week meal plan, which is in my highlight reel, where I just showed you what I cooked for 2 weeks. And, it's very hodgepodge and I'm all over the place. I'm not a professional chef or anything. But, I got some great feedback on it. It's just, it's real, it's easy, it's not these elaborate recipes or anything. But yeah, so I'm always just trying to just encourage people to make different choices, I suppose.
Give us a little favorite breakfast meal that you have, breakfast food.
My favorite breakfast is probably grated courgette and cauliflower with a poached egg. I'm really right now it's a Japanese white sweet potato, and it just have leftover mashed potato with that, sauerkraut and some avocado. That's like divine. Yeah, that's my favorite breakfast.
What's courgette again?
Courgette, so zucchini. Sorry, courgette is...
Okay, that says British.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
the British word.
So zucchini, cauliflower, and then Japanese white sweet potato. Cool.
Yeah.
That before, and then
really
avocado.
Good. Yeah.
And you just grate all that up. And then you'd like saute it like a hash thing, or?
Yeah, kind of like a hash. Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. Why maybe the grated veg is better to have than just boiling some cauliflower and putting on a plate. It is, it's a representative of a hash. I don't like deep fry it or fry it as much as a hash brown would be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you just saute it up in some like butter or some ghee or some coconut oil. And if you have a poached egg and that was a big thing, like, well, what do I soak up my runny yolk with if I'm not having toast? So it's a nice, getting your yolk in there. So yeah, that's my thing that I do over on Instagram. And in life, my kids eat it. My son's favorite vegetable in the morning is beetroot. So, I've continued it on with them. And, don't get me wrong, there's mornings he doesn't want it. And there's probably a good stint of 6 months to a year that he didn't eat any vegetable I put on his plate. But it was just like, you don't have to eat it, but it's there. And now he's eventually kind of coming back around to it. It's full circle, isn't it? You start this to get pregnant and you keep on it to keep your kids healthy. So they, hopefully, fingers crossed, don't have to go through anything like you had to go through.
Yeah, I think it's, 20 times for the palate to decide that it likes something?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep bringing it back out. That's for yourself as well. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do that at once. And then, as you change your diet, some of these different foods, they just start to taste different. An apple actually can be satisfying after a meal.
Yes.
Instead of that piece of chocolate cake, which, because I was a major dessert person. I still go and I have a local gluten-free, dairy-free.
Yeah. Right.
That I go to, but maybe too much sometimes. But some of the fruit where that gives you that sweet pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as a book or a website, anything you're obsessed with right now, you're loving?
So my number one book that I recommend anyone to kind of get their mind around a meditation is 10% Happier by
put that on my list to read. I haven't read it.
Yeah, that is the book that just did it for me. I was like, right. It's a true story. He's a news anchor for like ABC or something. And he had a breakdown on live television. And so he just wrote a book about his journey with meditation. And it just really sat with me, because it wasn't, I think a lot of meditation books out there are very hippie, and you need to be in the right mind frame to read those and get that information. So I recommend that book for anyone. It's on Audible too. He narrates it. So if you don't make time to read books, which I don't, I listen to a lot of them, it's on there. And the podcast that I make time for is the quote of the day, still by Sean Coxton. They're 15 minutes long, so you can get them in if you don't have a lot of time. And they're from just a wide variety of speakers, which I love because you just get so much knowledge. The more people you listen to, they're all kind of saying the same message in a way, but they're just bringing it in their own passion in their own ways. So I highly recommend that one as well. And on my website, you can go there. There's a resource page for books, for podcasts, for blogs, websites, the Circle and Blooms there, the 5-minute journals there, some other free things, some things you buy through Amazon. And I've done that for women and for men as well. I've recently interviewed 2 different men, just live Instas, nothing exciting. But it just made me realize, even on my own, resources, that I had really nothing for men, because a lot of stuff is just so women oriented. So I've done a lot of digging, and I've tried to find as much as I can for the guy. And like most men feel, there's not really much out there for them.
Yeah, it takes 2 to tango in this situation, even though
exactly,
even if the sperm or the semen is seemingly fine, it's to dig a little deeper as well too.
Yeah, 100%. My husband had fine sperm the whole time we were doing our journey, and he committed with me to do the diet change, even though he didn't have to on paper, and his sperm went up by the millions as well. So I just, like, for any women, especially when you're told it's your issues and your man's fine, that he can always improve, and, there's some great books out there. I haven't read them all, but some men have written some really cool books about their story going through infertility, whether they had male factor or female factor. So, there's some really good resources out there. If you dig.
Had on my podcast, John Walderman, and I think he was on, here it is. So episode 34, Infertility in the Male Perspective. So John Waldman, talks about that. Yeah, you can check that out. And so one success story you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, I'm getting some great feedback from women on the journal of just how, the small little positive thought at the end of the day has really helped them support their journey. I've got not that the book, the journal made them pregnant, but they're using it through their pregnancy now because like I, mentioned before, infertility is hard. And when you get pregnant, the hardness does not stop. The fears of having a miscarriage or if the baby's going to be all right are so intense. And I think that's for everyone. But I think especially when you've dealt with infertility and especially if you've had reoccurring miscarriages. So, that it travels through your journey. I'm on about a 90% success rate of making women cry because obviously when I send them out, it comes with a little extra love in it. And, I really I feel for them. I feel when you buy that journal, you are in a place that it is rough. And so, yeah, the feedback from it has just been awesome. And, it was a really big struggle to actually produce the journal for people to physically buy it, because even though it's a free principle, it's a lot of work to commit to making the journal. And I even found that when I was doing it. And that's why I was like, I need to make this physical so you can just buy it and use it and do it, be successful with your journaling. There was a few points in the last year that it wasn't going to happen. And I thought, I'm not going to do it. So everyone's feedback has just been great. And it's just, I'm really glad that it's working for other women. And I wish I had it at the beginning of my journey or even 3 years into my journey. It really only was at the very end of mine that I started using it, and I used it through my pregnancy, and I'm just coming up on the end of it. But yeah, so I'm really happy that it's working for women.
Nice. And so you're offering our listeners a $5 off discount with the code 5OFFGPN, and they go to mymindfulme.com, and this can be valid till December 31st, 2019. And so they'll just click on My Mindful Me, and then is it just they can find there the journal, or how do they navigate that?
Yeah, so the website is full of stuff, but you'll see the journals. You go to the homepage; it has the journal on it, and you just click into your basket, and on checkout, just use the code.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast again and sharing your words of wisdom. I love this topic. And yeah, definitely journaling is just, especially on this journey, is just so helpful and insightful to kind of see exactly where you are and celebrate your wins. And then, and when it's the dark or trying time, to be able to reflect back on how you're doing. And
yes.
So thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me again.
Hey there, Sarah Clark here. So are you struggling to have your baby? First of all, please know that my heart goes out to you. I support couples worldwide who are struggling with infertility to conceive and have healthy babies. Women like Rita, who gave birth to her beautiful daughter after following my fertility coaching system. Or Danielle, who after 2 failed IUIs was able to get pregnant after a supercharger fertility discovery call with me. So here's how you get my help for free. So I offer a free Supercharger Fertility Discovery call. And on that call, I'll create a plan with you that is going to help you fast track your success. So this call is not for everyone. And I'm really picky about who I get to speak with. And I have a strict but totally reasonable criteria that needs to be met in order for us to move forward. So here's who I can help. So first of all, you need to be able to explore your infertility diagnosis in a new light. So this offers for people who are open-minded, they're coachable, and if you can do that and want to double or triple your chances at the fertility clinic or get pregnant, awesome. So let's get on the phone and chat. Also, you must be an action taker. So someone who's committed to seeing results, you're able to follow directions. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything bizarre. But if you're one of those people who like to consume a ton of information, but don't like to spend time implementing and seeing results, then the call's not really for you. So I only want to spend time with people who are genuinely committed to their own success. So just click on the link in the show notes and apply, or go to fabfertile.com and click on the free consult. So it's a really short application that just tells me about your health, how long you've been trying to conceive, and how soon you'd like to be pregnant. So seriously, this is going to be the best time you've ever spent on your fertility. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTIL to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address and you'll receive our Fertility Yoga download. In this 20-minute intro video, we focus on a calming and peaceful practice to connect back to your heart. These simple fertility yoga poses can help quiet negative thoughts and make you feel more in control. Download it now and get started today. So for U.S. residents, text FERTILE, F-E-R-T-I-L-E, to 345-345. For non-U.S. residents, go to www.yogafreebie.com to access your special gift. That's www.yogafreebie.com to access the free fertility yoga download. And I love this quote by Dr. Mark Hyman, Medical Director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine and Chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine. Functional medicine is medicine by cause, not by symptom. Functional medicine practitioners don't in fact treat disease. We treat your body's ecosystem. We get rid of the bad stuff, put in the good stuff, and because your body is an intelligent system, it does the rest. Thanks for listening. Until next time.